He woke up in pain, not the kind of pain that lingers from a bad night of sleep. Something specific, something on his arm. He looked down, a near-perfect circle, raised skin, reddened at the edges. Clean geometry, the kind that does not come from tossing and turning. He had no memory of how it got there. He went through it in his mind. He had been in bed. He had been alone. There was no one else in the house that night. There had been no one else in the house for some time. And yet, the mark was there, precise, unexplained. He took a photo, posted it online, and wrote, "I'm not sure what caused this." What he did not mention in the first post, what came out only when people started asking, was that the mark was not the first strange thing to happen in that house. Not even close. It was the latest thing in a long list. I'm Roland Voss. This is ParaRational Files, for the people who already know that some things don't have easy explanations and aren't looking for anyone to tell them otherwise. Tonight we're looking at a case out of the United Kingdom. A man staying alone in a house wakes up to find a geometrically precise circular mark on his wrist, with no memory of how it got there, in the middle of a sustained pattern of unexplained activity. What he reported is difficult to dismiss. He woke up in pain and he found the mark, a raised, reddened circle of skin on his wrist, clean edges, near perfect geometry. No explanation he could immediately account for. He went to Reddit, to the community at r/paranormal encounters, and posted the photo with some context. The context is what changes the shape of this case. He had moved into the house recently. Since moving in, he had been experiencing a pattern of disturbances he couldn't explain. Nightmares, not the ordinary kind, the kind that leave a mark on the morning. Growling sounds with no visible source. Apparitions, spots in the house that ran hot or cold with no reason for it. Sounds he described as unintelligible gibberish. Shapes distorting in ways that had no account. The mark on his wrist was the latest entry in that list. The thread drew hundreds of responses. The majority landed on ringworm, a common fungal skin infection that often presents as a circular raised rash. Several commenters urged him to get it treated. That is the statistically likely explanation, and it is the honest one. But an esthetician in the thread looked at the photo and pushed back. She noted that ringworm typically starts as a solid raised area that clears in the middle, and that this mark did not look quite right for a standard presentation. Other suggestions came in: fungal infection, eczema, a brown recluse bite, Lyme disease, granuloma annulare, a skin condition that produces ring-shaped lesions without obvious trigger. One commenter floated carbon monoxide affecting behavior during sleep. He read through all of it. He came back to the thread with his own assessment. "There's one thing it looks like to me," he wrote, "which is a human bite mark, but that can't possibly be it." He paused. Then, "I live alone." He confirmed he was staying in the United Kingdom at the time, not his primary United States residence. He said he would see a doctor and post an update. No update was documented in the thread. Ringworm is the most likely answer. Skin conditions can do unexpected things, and a circular rash on a person living alone in a foreign house is not by itself remarkable. But a mark that appears during sleep on a person who lives completely alone in a house with months of documented unexplained activity. That is a different frame than a standalone rash with no history. Whatever the doctor found, if he went at all, the question of what left that mark in the night is still open, and the house was still full of everything else. If you've ever woken up with a mark, a bruise, or a physical sign of something you have no memory of with no explanation of how it got there, tell me about it in the comments. Subscribe to ParaRational Files for a new true paranormal case every week. You won't want to miss what's coming. Full story and sources are at ParaRational.com. I'm Roland Voss, Stay curious, stay open, and keep paying attention.